We're going to go over the various parts of the Haggadah. I divided it into 7 parts. Maybe there's more, but these are the main parts of the Haggadah Shel Pesach. There are several themes, several topics that are covered in the Haggadah. What's very apparent from the very beginning of the Haggadah and throughout the reading of the Haggadah is the importance of the kesher, the connection between a father and a son. The children are very much involved in the Seder of Pesach, and they're very much mentioned in the Haggadah itself, in the book. The emphasis on the children is because, first of all, there's an important connection between the transmittal of our Masoret to future generations. How does that happen? Obviously, from a father to a child. That is why we say the Shem Pam Levanecha. The Torah says when we read the Shema, the father has an obligation of instructing his child. Otherwise, how is the child going to know what to do? When a father cannot instruct a child, then he hires a teacher. As they did in the past, they did not have a system of schools where the children were sent. Either the father taught his child, or, as it later developed, as it evolved, a Rabbi came child, or several children went to a Rabbi. And they were paid privately by the parents, until the system of schools was set up that many, many children were able to attend. Even though that is a good way of educating a child, sending him to a good school, where he will receive not only information, but he will receive something called Yirat Shamayim. Hopefully that teacher who's giving the information is not just giving it over in a raw way. He's setting an example, he's showing that he's excited about it, he may tell a personal story. A teacher is almost like a father. Some teachers spend more time with the children than the parents do. So in choosing a teacher, in choosing a school, you have to be extremely careful that the Rebbe, that the teacher, that the school offer the right environment. And when I say the right environment, I mean good kids around your son or your daughter who are going to be his or her classmates. All of this is of tremendous importance because, as I said, they have an effect, a lasting effect on a child that is raw. It's like a blackboard. Whatever you write on it, it will remain with it forever. In many ways, much more than what that child will pick up in the house. So, Chinuch HaYeladim, the subject of education of the children, has always been of prime importance in Judaism. And in the Haggadah, as we will see, it is emphasized in various ways. But the education of a child is not only the information that he gets. When we're dealing with a parent to a child, we're also dealing with the bonding. Because in order for a father or a mother to influence their child, hopefully, if there's a bond between them, then the child will eagerly want to learn. It will not feel threatened. It will not feel this is a burden. If a son can build a friendship with his dad, that is, I think, the ideal situation that everybody would want. That's not always possible because parents are busy. Parents are preoccupied with other things. But if you want to really affect the child, you want to give him attention. Everybody likes attention. And when a child sees that somebody is interested in him, truly wants his well-being, wants to, teach him and to benefit him, then the chances are better for success. You may have read the story of Avshalom and David. David HaMelech was a great man. I don't think anybody has any doubts about that. We all admire him for who he was, for what he wrote, Tehillim. Tremendous person, David Melech Israel. Nevertheless, it is documented that he did not do a good job with Avshalom, one of his sons. As the Pasuk says, Velo atzavo aviv me'olam. The father never reprimanded him, never disciplined him. Atzavo means like he never shaped him. David HaMelech was preoccupied. I'm sure he had many duties, many responsibilities. Not that he didn't want to, not that he didn't care. It just happened to be that it didn't work out, and as a result of that, Avshalom was a rebellious child and did all sorts of things that the father later, of course, did not approve of it. But what can you do? Once the child grows up, you have less and less control of it. So from this we see that the more control, the positive type of control that you exert early on, the better the chances are that child will remain respectful of you later on in life. If you notice, something terrible has happened in the past 100 years, 150 years perhaps, and that is that many, many Jews have become more and more distant from Judaism, especially in this country. How did this happen? Well, at the turn of the century, life in America was very challenging. To keep Shabbat was not easy. There were no yeshivot. So there were several factors that made life for a Jew more difficult here. But those were not enough to make a Jew assimilate. Right? It just means that life was more difficult. You didn't have a mikveh in your community. Perhaps you had to go a couple miles. You had to travel. But what happened is that at some point, the Jew lost complete respect for his religion. How could that happen? Well, let me ask you something. Doesn't it make sense that if a son respects his dad, then he should respect his dad's religion. Doesn't it? If you respect your parent, then you respect your parent's tradition too. Then what is happening over here? If a child moves away, what does that mean? That he is losing respect for his parent. There is a breakdown. Which one comes first? The loss of respect for the parent or the loss of respect for one's religion? It's the same as how do they say it in English? What came first, the chicken or the egg? Which one do you think comes first? What? The rabbis tell us that in the door of Mashiach, the generation of Mashiach, chutzpah tizkeh, there will be an increase in chutzpah, and that a daughter-in-law will stand up against her mother-in-law. But that was always true, right? Yeah, but more so in the generation of Mashiach. There will be a lot of chutzpah. There will not be any respect for the elderly. So apparently, before Mashiach comes, there will be a time where people will lose that respect, that kavod that they had for the elderly, including their parents. They will move away from that, and that will affect their respect for their religion. Because there will be less and less of a bond, of a link in the two generations. People don't go up anymore for the elderly as it had. They had much more respect. A Jew who respects the elderly will respect the generation that was before him. They were smarter than people. Not everybody thinks like that. There are some, unfortunately, non-observant Jews who think that the generation before them were more primitive. They knew less. Today, because of science and technology, we know better. For thousands of years, our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents were willing to sacrifice their life for Judaism. They were willing to sacrifice their life for Shabbat, for matzah, for Brit Milah. And here comes along this 20th century individual who says, they were primitive. I know better. This is not good for me. It was good for them. Why isn't it good for you? The best explanation is, the easiest explanation is that somehow there's been a severing of the link between the two. When there's a severing of the link, it doesn't mean that one is disrespectful to his child. He doesn't know any better. Somewhere along the line, somebody broke that link. It doesn't mean it was the grandson. It could be that the father or the grandfather, little by little, started moving away. His grandfather was a rabbi somewhere in Russia. The son already shaved his beard and went to college. The grandson is already not putting on tefillin every day. See how it started? That is why there's a tremendous emphasis in Judaism on chinuch. And in the Haggadah you will find the words mentioned, V'igata lebincha bayom ahu lemor. And you will instruct, you will tell your son on that day. What day? Pesach. When we have the Seder, when everybody is together, you will explain to him what this is all about. You will not ignore his questions. You will encourage him to ask. As we will see later on, there's one child of the four who doesn't ask, right? So you will encourage him to ask, because it's important for him to. If he doesn't ask, you make him ask, as we will see later. Anyway, the best influence that the father can have on a son is when he's an example. As it says, V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam. If you yourself will speak about it, you yourself will do it, the child will have less of a problem. Well, if you don't do it, the child comes back, but dad doesn't do it, dad doesn't go to shul, why should I go to shul? Right? So the best chinuch is, of course, by example. Maybe, I guess, depending on how much time we have, let me tell you a quick story. I've said the story in the past with Rabbi Yagen Zechet Levaka, who once told the story many years ago when he was in L.A. of two Orthodox men praying in the same synagogue and had very different children. And this is the story. Rabbi Yagen was approached by one of those two men, somewhere, I think it was in Lawrence. He says, Rabbi, can you please explain to me? We're both very similar, he says. He points to himself and this other man. We're both Orthodox, we both pray, we both study Torah, similar backgrounds. Why is it when that man's child finished high school, he continued his studies in the yeshiva, and when my child finished high school, he decided to become a priest? How does this happen? What did I do wrong? What went wrong? So Rabbi again says, I don't know, I'm not a prophet, but I can perhaps give you an idea of what may have happened. When that man's son used to see his dad waking up in the morning early for Shachrit, and he would ask him, Dad, where are you going so early? And the father would answer, I'm going to Shachrit, with a smile on his face. You want to come with me? Come, let's go to the first minyan. When that son asked his dad, Sukkot time, Dad, what is it you're working so hard on right now in the backyard? I'm building a sukkah, come and help me. It's a beautiful mitzvah. Let's do it together. And the same attitude that father showed with every mitzvah. Excitement, interest, had his son participate perhaps with him. But with you perhaps, when you woke up one morning and your son asked you, Dad, where are you going? I have to go to Shachrit. When you were making a sukkah, he asked you, what are you doing? I got to get this done. I got to do this. You got to do this. I have to. When your son heard your attitude that everything is you have to, you got to, he decided he doesn't have to. So it depends what kind of an attitude you show. If you show love, interest, this is important to you, it's not a burden, then you will be able to attract your son. It will be easy for him to accept. So an example, a good example, is very important. So what's the essence of the Haggadah? That we involve the children. We want to inspire them, we want to instill in them the same emunah that we have, that our parents had, that our grandparents had throughout all the generations. We wanted to continue to have that same emunah, the strength of that emunah. Alright, the next theme in the Haggadah is the Arba Kosot. We have 4 cups. Various ideas behind the 4 cups, we're only going to cover one. The 4 cups represent the 4 Leshonot Shel Geulah. As you know, the redemption doesn't come overnight. As I mentioned in yesterday's lecture about the Geulah, it comes in stages. The stages of Yetziat Mitzrayim were Vehotzeti, I will take you out from Egypt, which means take you out from bondage. Not physically only from the land of Egypt, but take you out from bondage. Vehitzalti, and I will save you. I will spare you from all their from the suffering that you've endured. I will make miracles, because the Egyptians will come after you. Vehitzalti, in other words, I will save you. Vega'alti, I will redeem you. It will take you out, bring you to Sinai, to prepare you to receive the Torah. Velakachti, I will take you for a nation. I will give you the Torah. So how many do we have so far? 4. These are the 4 stages. 4 stages in exiting Egypt, whether it means removing Am Yisrael from bondage, or this removing them physically from Egypt, whether it's bringing them to the desert in preparation of receiving the Torah, being formed as a nation. These are the 4 main stages. But there's one more. If you read the Torah over there where these Lashonot are mentioned, you will find there's a 5th called Veheveti, and I will bring you to Eretz Israel. That is why we have a 5th cup. For who? For Eliyahu Navi. Because when will that take place? It hasn't happened yet. It will take place when Eliyahu Navi arrives, that everybody will go back to Eretz Israel, and there will be no new galut, because after that one there have been several galuyot. So that Veheveti will not come until Mashiach comes. The Or HaChaim HaKadosh gives another explanation of why Veheveti is not mentioned in the Haggadah. In other words, why it's not really a part of the whole Seder, why we only have 4 and that's not included. Because if you see the continuation of the Pasuk, it says, V'yedatem ki ani Hashem. The only time Veheveti will come true, it will be fulfilled, is on condition that you follow my Torah and Mitzvot. In other words, you will inherit the land only in that condition. If you just think that coming to Israel means that you can be like any other nation in the world, inhabit the land and do whatever you want without fulfilling Torah and Mitzvot, forget it. You will never hold on to the land. You will always have enemies go after you and bother you and try to take away your land. You will never be at peace. Veheveti therefore is a condition stage of Geulah if there is V'yadata Hashem. In other words, that you will know Hashem, you will fulfill the Torah and Mitzvah. In the future, if you want to know the stages of the future, you have to read Yehezkel. In Yehezkel, there are similar words. I wrote down a few of them over here. He says here, Ve'otzetim, V'kibatztim, V'abiotim, U're'aitim. I will take them out, I will gather them, I will bring them, and I will be their shepherd. The difference over here is obvious. Kibatztim, you need to have a kibbutz, because this time everybody's scattered all over the place, not in one country like Egypt. Otzeti still applies. Ve'abiotim, they will be brought. They're being brought. Every day there's thousands of Jews every week immigrating to Israel. U're'aitim, this time Hashem will be our shepherd. He will be with us together. That's the difference between that Geulah and the Geulah of Mitzrayim. But there's quite a few similarities. The rabbis tell us, Geulah achrona kach tiyeh Geulah atidah. In the same way, many ways, many of the things, many of the stages, many of the miracles that occurred in the Yetziat Mitzrayim will repeat themselves in the Geulah atidah. We will have a very similar experience. Next thing, the matzah. Anybody know what the name of this holiday is that's coming next week? Hagamatzot, Haggadah. Everybody calls it Pesach. We, Am Yisrael, call this holiday Pesach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls it Hagamatzot. Why? It's the same thing. Hashem calls it Hag HaMatzot. We call it Hag HaPesach. Why? The one rabbi explained, because we are giving praise to Borei Olam, to the Almighty. Asher Pasach al Batei B'nei Yisrael B'nei. We give praise in commemorating this holiday celebration that Hashem skipped over the homes of the Jews, saved us in Makat Bechorot, right, in the plague of the firstborn, when he went after the Egyptians, and he spared us. So what happened? Asher Pasach. What stands out is the miracle that he skipped over our home. Hashem says, no, this is a holiday for me. I praise you, that you went out in the desert. You didn't even have time to make bread, right? You didn't rise. You were willing to go out, without anything, barely anything. Just with matzot, So Hashem is calling this holiday with a term to praise us. Hag HaMatzot. This is the holiday of matzot. The Jewish people went after me trusting in me, going into a desert without too much preparation. And we call it Haggadah. Hashem actually spared us. But anyway, that's just an idea behind the different names used. But what is the significance of the matzah? The main significance of the matzah is that we went out the chipazon. We went out very quickly. The batzek, the dough, did not have enough time to rise, to become chametz, which shows tremendous bitachon in Hashem, that we didn't ask any questions, we went out quickly. But it's also, in a way, an insinuation, a remez la geula atidah. The geula atidah in the future, it says it will be the Hesech Hadat. The Mashiach will come, the Hesech Hadat. The Hesech Hadat means the people will be distracted. You will be downtown at your work, or wherever it is that you work, and all of a sudden somebody will tell you, Mashiach came. You will say, what? Where did you hear that, in CNN? And you will say, no, it's obvious. Go out to the street, you can see it, because it will be like that. All of a sudden. So I once asked the question, how could that be? Mashiach will come so suddenly. If you look at the Gemarot, the prophets, you have a lot of remazim, a lot of simanim, a lot of signs of what will come before Mashiach. And what will happen? There will be this war, that war, there will be this, that. If that's the case, we can estimate approximately when he's coming. We can tell, can't we? If we look. So what's the problem? Why is it called a Hesech Hadat? Because not everybody will be looking at the simanim. Everybody will be busy making money, or busy doing whatever it is that they're doing, that they won't pay attention to the simanim. When they see a war going on in Iraq, they'll say, another war. I hope they finish it quickly. Why? I want to enjoy my life. I want the gas prices to come back down. Take a look at what's going on over here. Didn't you hear the words of Bush? He said a very, very important statement. He says, your liberation has come. Didn't you hear those words? Who was he talking to? Not the Iraqis. He couldn't care less about their liberation. I'm saying this, obviously, but to me it's clear. He's telling us, Am Yisrael, your liberation has come. Because these will be the words that Mashiach will say. Higia zman geulachem. Exact same words. Incredible. So we all know, those who pay attention, that everything that happens in the world is related to Israel. Everything. Even if the Koreans are making a big fuss, somehow it's related to Israel. We don't know how, but there's some relationship. For your good. So in the same way that last Geulah of Egypt was in a way the Hipazon, this one will be the Hesech Hadat. Quickly, people will be distracted, but only because people will not be paying, unfortunately, attention. But if they did, they would see that it's coming very quickly. The matzah is also eaten because the matzah is also called lechem oni, a poor man's bread. For what reason? To remind us of the bread that our forefathers ate in Egypt at the time that they were slaves. So that's for that reason too. Okay, the next theme we have is Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim, which is one of the most important parts of the Haggadah. We tell over the story. It's not just to have a good meal. It's not just to eat the various things on the Seder that commemorate the past, like the Maror, the Haroset. Each one is symbolic of something else. Of course, all of this is to remind us about what happened. But the most important part of all is Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim. And that is related to the first thing that we mentioned, the Chinuch HaYeladim. The whole Haggadah. Haggadah is called Haggadah because we tell. Anachnu Megidim. In other words, we tell over the story, Megidim et HaSipur, Mesaprim et HaSipur, that happened with our forefathers. Whoever expands and elaborates more about the miracles, he gets more credit for it, more merit. So one has to make an effort not to rush through it, even though the first night one is very tired. We have an advantage over Jews living in Israel. If you fell asleep in the middle, you have a second chance the following night. Because we have 2 nights here in Israel, they only have one chance to do it right. So hopefully they don't fall asleep. It's good. It's a good idea to get a nap. If you have the time, if everything is prepared. Most people don't have even a minute to take a nap. If you have a chance to take a nap so you don't fall asleep, it's a very special time. We want the kids to stay up as much as possible to get them involved. So Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim is to retell the stories of the miracles that happened in the past, because when we speak about the miracles that happened in the past, we awaken the same Midat HaRachamim, the attribute of mercy that was then, and we're basically asking that Midat to reawaken now and be merciful with us and perform miracles for us, just like Hashem performed miracles back then. Part of this mitzvah, Yetziat Mitzrayim, is also a show of gratitude. As you know, during the time we had a Bet HaMikdash, a Jew brought korbanot. Besides the Korban Pesach, there was a Korban Haggadah for the holiday itself, besides the Pesach. This is not just in celebration, it's also in thanks, in gratitude for Borei Olam, for what He has done. That is the purpose of doing a Seudah Hodayah, Also, the mitzvah, when you have a boy, you have a girl, you say thank you. How do you say thank you to Hashem? Not just by expressing your thanks with tefillah, but by making a sevudah, a feast where people will come, sharing your simcha, and make berachot. So during the time we had a Bet HaMikdash, we did so with korbanot. How do we do it today? We do it through Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim and through saying the Hallel. That is why Hallel is said so much on Pesach. Some have the custom to say it after Arbit at night. We say it in the Haggadah. We say it the following morning. Hallel. Hallel is all praise, Shevach V'Odaya, and thanks to Borei Olam for everything that he did. When somebody, for example, something terrible happens, he was in jail, he was very, very sick, he also says Hagomel, L'Chayavim Tov Moshik, right? There's a special blessing that we say that you're thankful to Hashem. We don't take things for granted. And when we make all these blessings, we sing that, we share it with our children, hopefully this leaves an impression in them. So this is a time, by the way, you should know, Pesach is a time when many Holocaust survivors will tell their own stories, their own miracles that happened to them in Europe. And anybody who has a story, a miraculous story that happened with them, this is the time to say it. Share it with your children. Sometimes a child is so impressed that even if he's 4 or 5 years old, because he's so impressed, he will remember it when he's 65. My dad told me this story when I was 4 years old. How could you remember? Because I was so impressed. There are some older people that, as they get older, they forget. What do they forget? What they ate yesterday. Yeah, I'm not exaggerating. But they remember that when they were 6 years old, in their village, the king once went by. And he went by with a chariot of 6 horses. And the chariot was adorned with gold. And they start describing it in great detail. This is a child, 6, 7, 8 years old. He doesn't remember what he ate yesterday, but he remembers in detail a story that happened 70 years ago. How do you explain that? He was impressed. He was excited about it. It left an impression on him. So if a child can absorb positive impressions when he's young, the more the better. Again, that's the emphasis of the Chinuch HaYeladim, especially when they're young. See, what happens when a child becomes older? There's a competition. Everybody's trying to impress him. Don't you, all of you, get phone calls from this company? You just won a cell phone. My daughter was all excited when she heard this call. Apparently, I have to introduce her now to the Sheker Amerikai. Since nothing is for free. Ask, how much is it after the first 30 days? $39.95. Oh, thank you very much. She's all excited for the first minute. Free. There's a competition to lure you to buy this and to buy that. You owe yourself a vacation. They're telling you owe yourself. And you say, yes, of course I do. I work very, very hard. Anyway, mileage and all these things, they try to sell you everything. And in the end, it all costs. So what happens when a child becomes an adult? There's a lot of competition trying to get his. When he's still a child, he's clean. Hopefully whatever he absorbs will remain with him, and hopefully there will be no competition. It will be purely his parents, his teachers, his good friends, and whatever he gets then will remain with him. All right. The next theme that is obvious in the Haggadah, in the Seder, is Herut, freedom. Anybody know what freedom means? If you ask a woman, she doesn't have to do the dishes. That's freedom for her. What's freedom? Once you arrive at the Seder, you really feel Zman Herutenu now, in a sense, because Avadim Ainu for an entire week, with the vacuuming of the house, the cleaning. This is Mamash Zman Herutenu for those of us who work very hard before Pesach in scrubbing everything. The old days they used to work very, very hard. Today we hire workers, we have maid servants, or whatever it is. But that's not the Herut. The Herut does not mean here freedom from physical labor, even though we were liberated from physical bondage in Egypt. You ask any accountants here? Freedom from the IRS. Some people will say no taxes. That's not Herut either. Herut means, En lecha ben chorin ala misha osek b'Torah. The rabbis tell us who is the free man? Only one who studies Torah. Why is that so? For 2 reasons. One who studies Torah will have the answers to many questions. He will have a better understanding of what he's doing. And when one is not ignorant, when one is knowledgeable, he's free. He understands things, can relate to things. Study of the Torah, it's a tree of life. It makes one happy. That's what liberates man. He's happy, he's knowledgeable, he knows how to manage. That's true freedom. But not only that, it's not only that. It's more so, one who learns Torah and fulfills the mitzvot, he is able to elevate himself above his mazal. Mazal is a big subject, but I'm only going to tell it to you briefly. We are limited by our mazal. We would all like to make $2.5 million a salary, plus bonuses too. We would love to make all that money. What is limiting, what is holding us back? Not brains, not opportunities, not a better resume, not a PhD degree or something like that. Mazal. Either you have it or you don't. That's it. It's a big subject, and I'm not going to get into that, how it actually happens, why this one has this mazal, this one. That's mazal. We are limited by our mazal. Some people can have 17 children, some can only have one child, some people cannot have any children. It could be part of their mazal. Some people, every day of their life, they have lawsuits, they have troubles. Other people have an easy life, part of the mazal. Am Yisrael me'al ha-mazal. The Jewish nation can be above the mazal, can liberate itself from the mazal, from the shackles of the mazal. Like the pasuk says, "Tzedakah tatzil mimavet." Tzedakah is a very powerful mitzvah that has a certain segula, a certain characteristic, unique characteristic that it can spare one from death, from an unnatural death. How does that happen? Death is meant to happen at a certain point, according to the mazal, but we are above the mazal. We can do certain things. Rashi says, the Shuvat, Hilau Tzedakah, can change the mazal. Otherwise, why are we praying so hard? If nothing can change the mazal, then what difference is the prayer? Why do we say Tehillim for someone who's sick? What's Rosh Hashanah all about? Right? Obviously, because we have a special relationship with Borei Olam, we have protectia, as we say in Hebrew, we have pull upstairs, and if Hashem approves, he'll change the mazal. If he doesn't, it will be status quo for the next, or Chas v'Shalom, it will be even worse, depending on our ma'asim and our deeds. So cherut, true freedom, means to be liberated even from the mazal. We're so free that even the mazal does not affect us. Even though we were limited by our mazal in some particular area, because of our ma'asim, we were able to even liberate ourselves from that. That can only happen through the koach of Torah, not through a degree, not through money. All these things are not what bring happiness and what bring freedom. What brings freedom and happiness is the Torah. The other idea behind cherut on Hag HaMatzot, why it's emphasized, it's stressed, is to give encouragement even to the poor people. Because you have poor Jews. And what is a poor Jew going to feel when he comes to the Seder? This is supposed to be Zman Chailutenu. I'm supposed to be happy. Where is all the happiness in my life? So he is reminded, Ata ben Melech, you are the son of kings. Every day in the morning we say, Shelo Asani Goy. Be proud, be happy of who you are, that you are part of this nation. And have hope that even though your situation is now, Hashata Hacha, now we're here, but tomorrow we'll be in Yerushalayim. Now we're still slaves, because we are. We're still in the Galut. But tomorrow we'll really be Bnei Chori. So you're not really in a more difficult situation than most everybody else. Some people have just a little bit more mula than you. A little bit more kesef, right? A little bit more green, right? Than you. Yeah, it doesn't mean they're happier. It doesn't mean they're freer than you. You're just as special. Be just as proud of who you are and where you come from. And remember, all this is temporary. Because Hashata Haka, now we're here. Tomorrow we'll be in Yerushalayim. Now we're slaves. Tomorrow we'll be Bnei Chori. So the cherut over here comes to give encouragement to the poor as well. That they're not in such a terrible situation because it's only temporary. Okay, let's go over to the Arba'a Banim. We have 4 children that are mentioned in the Haggadah. Chacham, the wise one. Rasha, the wicked one. Tam, the simple one. And Sheina Yodea Lisho, the one that doesn't ask questions. You may recall a pasuk in Mishlei, Hanoch lana'ar al-pi darko, gam ki yaskin lo yasur mimenu. Teach a child according to his way, according to his abilities. So when he grows old, it will not leave him. What that means is Shlomo Melech is saying every child is different. You can't teach any subject to just any child. It all depends on his age, because every child is different, right? His abilities are different. Chanoch lana'ar al-pi darko, according to his ability. If he's a chacham, give it to him. Give it to him. In other words, feed him a lot. Give him a lot of knowledge. If he can absorb it, let him have it. He will take it. Give it to him. He wants to learn all the difficult subjects. There have been smart kids. Give the children at the age of 14, they were already in college. But those are exceptions, right? But even so, normal children, there's different levels. And if the child is on a high level that he's willing to learn, he's thirsty, he's excited, he has a good retention, give him. He's represented in the child called a chacham. Not to hold back anything, according to his level, of course. What about the Rasha? What's the attitude that we have with the Rasha? The Rasha is the rebellious one, the wicked one, the one that doesn't want to know anything about it. I don't want to hear about it, it doesn't interest me. What do you do then? So the Torah, the Haggadah tells us, you can't ignore him completely. You give it to him. In other words, you let him know that had he been in Egypt, he would not have been saved. That's a way of explaining to him that this is totally unacceptable. And had he been living in the time of Egypt, he would have belonged to a group of Jews that lived then too, that had no interest in leaving Egypt. They stayed behind, and that's where they remained. They never merited to come out. The same will happen when Mashiach comes. There will be, unfortunately, a number of Jews who will not come out, who will remain behind. The prophet Eliyahu says something even more than that. Not only the Jews, amongst the Goyim, only 1/3 of the world's population will leave. After all the battles and wars and all the natural disasters and catastrophes will occur right before Mashiach will come, only 1/3 will leave. So not everybody will make it. What will be required to survive? Certain zchuyot. And of course one of them is true emunah, true faith in Hashem. And not everybody has it. So the Rasha cannot be ignored. None of them are ignored. Even the Rasha, whose wicked rebellion cannot be ignored, he has to be told off, he has to be rebuked. But even so, the rabbis tell us that with the Rasha, you don't close the doors to him. There is an expression in the Gemara that says, "Be'olam smol docha v'yamin." With children, you always want to use two tactics: smol docha v'yamin mekarevet. Push him off with your left hand, which is the weaker hand. Push him off. In other words, rebuke him. Show him that he's no good. But embrace him and give him a kiss and show him warmth and affection with your right hand. Don't just do this. I don't want to see you. You're no good. Whatever. Some parents, that's all they do is they criticize. Right? They say negative things about their children. That's terrible. If you want to say something, be careful with what you say. Show anger on the surface, but inside, don't hold a grudge. In other words, if you want to show, sometimes you want to show that you're upset, just show it on the surface, but don't keep it inside. And if you did that, make sure you use your right hand a couple minutes later to bring him back in. You still care for him, you still love him. And you know what? This is the same thing you got to do with women. If you did something to show your displeasure, don't forget the right hand. That's very, very important. Because there are times when there's a displeasure. Or sometimes you say something for whatever reason. Don't forget your right hand too, to make up. Otherwise you destroy your home. So you got to use both tactics. And with children, that's the way it is. They have to see the left sometimes. But don't forget the right hand. So with the Rasha, even though we can't ignore him, even though we tell him off, we also have to show him that the doors are not closed. Now obviously, when you're dealing with people who are rebellious, who are not interested, you have to have the right answers. You have to know how to speak to them. Otherwise, who's to say that you will convince him? Maybe he will convince you. So you have to be prepared. When you're dealing with somebody who's very difficult, that you know how to respond, how to deal with him. Otherwise, send him to someone who can deal with him. Alright, what about the Tam? The Tam is a simple one. What does simple mean? He's not a Chacham, but he's not a Rasha either. He needs to be strengthened. His emunah needs to be strengthened. So you tell him, V'chozek yad. Those are the words that are said over there. Hashem took us out, V'chozek yad. It was miraculous. It wasn't just that the tide, it was a low tide, and Moshe knew the weather, and he decided that the Jews will cross the Nile, the Suez, when the tide is low. He knew everything about the tide. No, it was V'chozek yad. It was miraculous. What tides? Moshe knew exactly to figure out when the tide was, and he knew exactly when the waters will go back and drown the Egyptians. So the Tam has to be impressed that these were miracles. This was not nature. This was not something that happens every so often. There were miracles, but because there are people who believe something happened, they don't deny it. But they say it's all nature. We can explain it with nature. Locust? It happens all the time in Africa, in certain parts of Africa, in China. They have problems. Moses knew when to call the locust and when to tell it to go back. Read the whole story. Darkness, frogs, blood, all these things. No, they can explain it through nature. Egypt has a lot of frogs, so they all decided to come at the same time, invade the kitchens of the Egyptians. So to the Tam, you have to strengthen his emunah, impress upon him that these were miracles, V'chozek yad. What about Sheno Yodea Lishol, the one who doesn't know how to ask questions? He's the most misken. He's the worse off than everybody else. Because one who does not ask questions, how is he ever going to know the truth? The problem that we have today is that some people are afraid to ask questions. Because they're afraid of the answers. They're afraid of the truth. That's even worse. Because deep down they know that they are wrong. Deep down they know there's something to this that is true. Because they've seen it by so many people. They've seen it by their grandparents. Maybe not by their parents, but by their grandparents. Then why don't you investigate this? Why don't you, look into it? A lot of Israelis, after they finish the army, they go on their famous tiyul, on their famous trip to India to discover the world. And discover themselves. Why don't you start in your own backyard? Ask yourself who you are. And I've heard this from people who unfortunately married non-Jews, that the non-Jewish girls who were Asian, I happen to be Asian, told their husbands, why don't you find out about yourself a little bit? I know more about your religion than you do. Incredible. And somehow that got them going. The Goy had to remind them to investigate your own religion. They're looking at all these other religions and all these faiths and spirituality. Check yourself out first. Don't you want to know about yourself? Aren't you curious a little bit? Read about who your people are. So that's the She'eno Yodeli show. We need to motivate him. We need to encourage him, because if he does not come to you, you open his mouth. You get him to start asking. Somehow motivate him to ask. Okay, and the last theme, also a very important theme in the Haggadah, is the Hishtalshelut. The entire history of the Jewish people, how would you translate the Hishtalshelut? The entire involvement of the Jewish nation throughout history. What's the common thread running through this history of ours? Shebechol dor vador omdim alenu lechalutenu. That is what we say when we pick up the cup, the Isha Amda. Right? Very important part of the Haggadah, that throughout history, something always keeps happening. Shebechol dor vador, in every generation, omdim alenu lechalutenu. They gang up against us, they stand up against us, and try to destroy us. We're told this because we need to be reminded there are times in history where things are more at ease, there's peace. Just read the prophets, and there were 40 years of peace and tranquility. And after that, the Philistines or the Syrians or some other nation went after us. The Jews never had hundreds of years of peace. It was maybe a couple of years of peace, and then again problems. So in the Haggadah we are reminded, Shebechol dor vador, in every generation, the Goyim will stand up against us. Hashem uses them, of course, as a whip. They don't just stand up for no reason. Even though they are anti-Semitic, even though they plot against us, whether they succeed or not is depending on what Hashem's plan is. But we are reminded, Shebechol dor vador, omdim alenu lechalutenu, and what's holding them back from carrying out their plans? Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We shouldn't think that it's the Israeli pilots or the best pilots in the world. They are good pilots. It's not that they won the 6-day war. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? But we say, of course, but if you went and asked the Israeli Air Force, they will say, what are you talking about? We can even teach Americans how to fly planes. They don't give any credit, unfortunately, where credit belongs. But in reality, that is what we say in the Haggadah, a very important point, that all the miracles that have happened, beginning with Egypt and up until now, has been due to the credit to Kadosh Baruch Hu. And in the same way that He has redeemed us back then, He will redeem us again. And that is the meaning of Baruch Shomer Avtachato. Blessed be the one who keeps His promise. He made a promise. What was His promise? That He will redeem us again. However, in order for Him to redeem us, there is one thing that still needs to happen. That happened in Egypt. And what's that? Anybody know? What led to the final redemption in Egypt? What did it? That as soon as that happened, Hashem says, okay, your time has come. Well, no, what did it? That Hashem decided, as soon as He saw something, Hashem says, you know what? That's it. Taking you out of Egypt. There was one thing that happened, and Hashem says, you know what? Not only is the time up, Am Yisrael did the right thing, and now I'm ready to take Him out. Vanitzak el Hashem. When we cried out to Hashem, we had enough. We had more than enough. Hashem is waiting that in the same way that our forefathers cried out to Him and said, we want you to help us. We want you to take us out of this misery. That the same thing should happen now. We should call out. We want Mashiach now. We want you to come now. We want you to take us out of it. Even if you're comfortable, and many are comfortable. No, we still want to leave. We still want to rebuild the Bet HaMikdash. We still want to go to Eretz Yisrael. And as I explained in the past, Jews throughout history who have showed tremendous emunah and bitachon Hashem have made preparations for Mashiach. Either they had a little suitcase ready to go. Yeah. My great-great-grand-uncle had a special chariot, wagon, with horses, just for that, to go on that to greet Mashiach. My grandfather still remembers seeing him as a child. With a wagon there with horses ready, special made just for that trip that he will make to greet. That showed a tremendous emunah and bitachon. As the Pasuk says, Na'alechem v'raglechem makelchem v'yetchem. We have to be ready to take our luggage with us and be prepared to go greet the Mashiach. There's one difference, however, between Pesach Mitzrayim and the final Geulah. A major difference. We saw similarities, right? But there's one major difference. As the Navi Yirmiyahu says, when Mashiach will come, there will no longer be the Pesach that we're used to, that we have always celebrated. Because Lo Yomar Od Chai Hashem Ashela Otchem Eretz Mitzrayim. We will no longer say, Hashem, thank you for having taken us out of Egypt. What will we say? Ki Me'eretz Safon. Thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for having taken us out from the country in the north. In other words, instead of Yetziat Mitzrayim, B'ezrat Hashem, we will have Hag Yetziat America, the liberation and the exodus from Eretz Tzafon. That's America, from the north. So the holiday will still be there, but we will be commemorating a different kind of redemption. Egypt, of course, was very important, but compared to the present, compared to the experience that we're going to have now, compared to this Exodus, it will be so great that will be minuscule compared to what we're going to be experiencing. There will be many similarities. Yes, the Geulah will repeat itself. There will be a Goel, a Redeemer, there will be miracles, but this one will be so much greater that the other one will be almost forgotten. And the emphasis will be not on Yetziat Mitzrayim, but on the Yetziah of all the Galuyot that God willing, B'ezrat Hashem, we should merit to see very soon.